Hello, it's What the Doodle here. I just wanted to quickly touch upon a interview that Uncle Bob did with ThePrimeagen, and it's something. I mean, it's a very long interview, and I suggest you watch the entire thing. But there was an element early on that, after watching, I felt that I had to actually kind of comment on because it seems rather odd. So let's quickly actually see the actual interview, the section that I'm talking about. So let's fire up Firefox. So I've already in my history, so we can go straight to the actual section. So here, I mean, the argument is kind of ludicrous if we unpack this a little bit. Essentially, what Uncle Bob is saying is that previously, 30 years ago or so, there were a lot fewer people, and so therefore his thinking, his thoughts, his ideas, and all this kind of stuff was, I don't know, maybe it was easier. I'm not sure what he's trying to essentially say, and he's claiming that because there's been now a deluge of more programmers or software engineers on the space, his voice is essentially being drowned out now, and that is the reason why apparently there is a decline, if you like, in some of the ideas that Uncle Bob propositions. Now, it doesn't. I think this is very hand wavy, and I don't think it holds water. And the reason I say is, if you have something which is, for example, 1 plus 1 equals 2, then we know that it is completely tangential and completely isolated and separate to the number of people that you have. It's not relevant. You could have 1 million people, 2 million people, 100 million people. It will not change certain base realities and certain base facts. With these certain ideas that Uncle Bob proposes in terms of practices and all and so forth, they have to be based on merit. They're not about numbers. It shouldn't be based on simple numbers and about trying to get your voice heard. If a certain practice works, then that will I mean, we are essentially, you could argue it's a good thing if you have larger numbers because it's almost like evolution. Sorry, it's a bit like evolution where you have a natural filter, and it's very Darwinian in the aspect that the natural filter will remove away things that simply don't work. So when you have a larger populace, a larger mass of engineers, things that work will naturally spread, almost like kind of like a virus, and things that don't work will be left, and people will not use those things. That is just the way it works. And you could argue with the larger amount of individuals that we have essentially like a Cambrian explosion of ideas, and the ideas are being tested, and that's more important. They're being tested in real life, in real time, by a large collection of engineers, and things that work, things that are productive, things that are useful are being kept, and things that are useless, and perhaps maybe those things were useful 30 years ago, then they probably in the current context they're not as useful. The technology has changed, the tooling has changed, a lot of things have changed. Things that are useful have lived on and will carry on living on and will improve and expand. So I think this is essentially a very, very, very lame excuse by Uncle Bob to try and justify practices that maybe aren't as good as he believes in his mind. Maybe 30 years ago they were good practice, and there are kernels of truth in what he says, and there are some good things and ideas there. But it's almost like an admission, that he can't get his voice out. Well, could there be a reason for that? Perhaps there are better ideas than Uncle Bob is espousing. Has he thought about that? I mean, if you're going to compete in the marketplace of ideas, then the market will decide if your idea is worth anything or if it's any good. You don't get to decide that. So you can cry all you want about saying, oh, there's a large deluge of people in the marketplace, therefore I can't sell my stuff and nobody's buying my stuff. You need to reflect, Uncle Bob. Is your idea as good as you think it is? Or perhaps you've overestimated the value of what you're producing in the value of marketplace.